the Beatles, and Jack Parsons. Everybody's in here. It's incredible. And I definitely recommend this book. There's a bunch of pictures in here, too, of all these people and different chapters and information. Anton LaVey and people I've never heard of, too. There's a whole bunch in here. JFC Fuller. I don't know who he is. But it's great stuff by our producer here, William Ramsey. So check out Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow Over Humanity. You can find it on Amazon.com, or you can find it in the OppermanReport.com bookstore. We have an urgent bulletin. It seems that the group Strawman is still on the loose. It has been confirmed that Strawman are Canadian, okay, and that authorities are asking people to stay indoors, lock your doors and windows until this group can be dealt with. You could find more information about this group of Canadians, at strawmanmusic.com. You can have your ad played here. Okay, we're looking for sponsors. Okay, in fact, we desperately need sponsors right now to take this show to the next level. So you can have your your ad played here, read live, like I'm doing now, so artfully. Or we can even work up a little jingle for you with some music and stuff like that and play it here. You have no idea how inexpensive it would be to have your ad played on the Opperman Report on 7 stations. Live Friday night, and another 7 stations live on Saturday night, plus replayed every day of the week on different stations, and then archived on YouTube, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and all different kinds of podcasts, Pod This and Podbean, all different kinds of places who archive the show for us. And on those archives, your ad would play indefinitely, forever. You also get a little banner on OppermanReport.com. You get a mention on the air. You get a little interview on the air, and all kinds of fun stuff if you sponsor Opperman Report. We have an opportunity to get this show on a major AM/FM station in California. We've been approved. So if you want to sponsor us into that, so incredibly inexpensive that your ad would be heard by a the range covers 5 million people in population where your ad would be broadcast, and all these other stations would be thrown in for free. So really affordable prices to sponsor OppermanReport.com. Get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You can get a copy of that book at emailrevealer.com, or you can get a copy of that book now. It's back up on Amazon.com. How to Become a Successful Private Investigator by Ed Opperman. And this book has been updated a little bit from the previous book that we had. It's Cocoa.com, Phoebe Sod's chocolate website. So check out pscoco.com and all the different kinds of chocolates and syrups and candies and mixes and all kinds of things you can get at pscoco.com. We're here with Kathy Tricanian, and the website is called Find Aundria M Bowman. You can find that on Facebook. I'll have a link to that in the description on Spreaker and iHeart and on YouTube. Now, Kathy, we were talking about Carl Kopelman and how he saw this autopsy photo or morgue photo, which then brought up the attention of this missing girl with the Bowman family. Now, is there any connection between Dennis Bowman and Brenda Bowman to the location where that body was found?
Not that I know of. But this is an interesting point to bring up, is that if you look on a map, by the way a boat would go across there, it's almost parallel from where they live.
Oh, so how many miles?
However long the Michigan Lake is between Chicago, or more north of Chicago, between Illinois and Michigan. I don't know how wide that lake is. I can tell you. I can Google map it right now.
Well,
many miles, and I don't think that they're boat people.
Okay, so if someone was parked at the Bowman's house and they had a boat, they could hop into this lake and take a straight line and to where the location of where the body was found.
Nearly.
And do the Bowmans have a boat? Did they ever have a boat?
I don't know. They don't now, but he has dealt in many different cars. Evidently, that's how he supports himself when he's not working. He buys and sells all kinds of different vehicles. You know, a friend buys a car from a friend, jacks it up $200, and and that's, you know, what he, I believe, some of how he stayed off the radar and managed to make money.
Gotcha. Okay, so then you said you had the next stage of the story you wanted to tell is what?
I'm sorry, say again?
Yeah, I know, that wasn't a very good question. During the commercial break, you said, Ed, the next part that I'd like to explain to you is this part here. So what were you going to say?
About Racine Jane Doe.
Okay.
Was I talking about Racine Jane Doe? Oh, okay. In 2010, now this was 2 years after Carl Koppelman had actually contacted the Racine County detectives, who then got in touch with the Allegheny County detectives. The Allegheny County detectives finally got the letter, in Bowman's words, letter of permission, that the detectives then flew from Michigan to Virginia to the adoption agency where the Bowmans had adopted Alexis, and told them the story, okay? Told them that they believed, the detective that knew Dennis Bowman told the woman who I talked to that he believed that Dennis was probably responsible given his past and what they uncovered Bowman had said. That this girl who had been found in Racine, Wisconsin, could be Alexis, and Dennis possibly was, you know, and this is all somewhat in confidence with her. I mean, he's got to convince this woman to open that file and get out that piece of paper that has my name, number, and address on it, which I had given them years prior, and send me a letter for DNA. He was out for DNA. So he was cajoling, he was probably begging, he was whatever it took, because he knew that this was one of the first things out of his mouth was, you were really hard to find. And I'm sorry, this tea kettle's going off. Wait. I know that
do you want to go grab the tea?
Putting him off.
Do you want to go grab the tea kettle for a minute?
Oh, I did it. It's
okay.
off.
Okay.
But between Bowman putting him off for that period of time to get the letter, and I'm sure he did research what a closed adoption means, and having to go to this, the woman's last name was Brickhouse, okay? So that kind of tells you what he had to do to get the information across, to get her to mail a letter to me. I know you shouldn't judge a book by its brick house, but I do, this one, you know?
Well, at least it wasn't brick wall, right?
She contacted me through a letter, and she told me exactly what I just told you, that she had been contacted by a detective. Well, no, actually what she told me is, get in touch with me. I have really important news.
Okay.
That's what the letter said. And I thought, I'm going to meet my daughter. It's finally happened. So I got in touch with them on the phone, and, she said, are you alone? And I said, well, no, yes, more or less. And she said it again, and I said, well, you mean like, am I sitting down? And she said, yes. And she went about telling me what I told you about the detectives coming to, Virginia from, she wouldn't tell me where, to let her know that my daughter went missing 20 years prior. She wouldn't tell me my daughter's name, and that likely the adopted father had caused it. She didn't really talk about Racine Jane Doe. She didn't say there was a dead body in Wisconsin that needed IDing. She just said they wanted DNA in case her body was ever found. Flipped me out, to say the least.
Yeah, I could imagine.
So I gave him DNA and basically laid down and cried for 3 years. And then I got a real clear picture of him because I FOIA'd all his records. And it's horrifying.
Well, who's that? That's Bowman? Bowman you're talking about?
I'm sorry?
You FOIA'd Bowman's records, you're saying?
That's right. That's right.
So, but it turned out they did come and take a swab of your DNA, and they matched it to this Racine Jane Doe, and it was not.
No, that's not how it happened.
Okay.
I went to the police department in Gloucester, Massachusetts. That's where I lived. My husband and I were split and living down in Florida half the year and Gloucester half the year. So we're down in Florida when I got the letter. So I went up to Gloucester. I gave them my DNA. They were supposed to send it to the police in Michigan, which I knew nothing about. Instead, they sent it to CODIS. And there it just sort of sat, doing nothing. So when I got in touch with them, they found out what had happened by then, that it didn't go to their lab, that it went to CODIS. And so it was ruled out. It took over 4 years to rule her out because they buried her only having nuclear DNA. So you can't take mitochondrial DNA and match it to nuclear. It has to be the same.
Right.
So they had to dig her up, get out the mitochondrial. It's really sad. It's a really sad world.
Yeah, it's horrific. Now, but they finally were able to try and match, and it turns out that this Racine Jane Doe was not Aundria.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. And that Racine Jane Doe is still unidentified to this day.
That's right. And nobody's trying to advocate for her. Nobody's trying to find out who she is. She's a cold case, possibly between the age of 19, 24, and nobody has to do anything for her. And it's just horrifying.
Yeah, that is heartbreaking.
But they think they know who did this to her. Now that she hasn't been identified as my daughter, they think they know who did this to her, and that guy's in prison. And the reason that they think they know it's him is because the woman that he's in prison for had about the same kind of injury. She was starved to death. She was beat for years and years, those sorts of things.
Did you ever try and contact the man in prison and tell him your story? And
they won't tell me who he is.
Okay. Really? Oh, boy.
Yeah, because, I mean, for this case, he's just thought to be.
Right. Okay. So now, this is when then it's 4 years later, after 2010, when you find out that, okay, it doesn't match Racine Jane Doe, and this is when you start building a website and trying to contact the Bowmans and all that kind of stuff?
Actually, I was maybe starting in 2011.
Okay.
And I really didn't know what I was doing. You know, I was just kind of, they're doing that, so I'll try to do that, you know? I mean, I hired a private detective once the grief sort of passed a little bit, you know? I mean, you just grieve your children. I don't care if you raise them or not.
Yeah.
And I learned that lesson. But once that sort of moved past me, through just such wonderful people I've met on Facebook, got a really fantastic PI who, like I said, built that bridge for me to the current detective that will now converse with me. You know what I mean? Like, we're all on the same page. I'm not trying to step on toes. I'm not trying to say you have to believe what I believe. They came to me and told me. I didn't tell them, hey, did you see this? Did you notice that? Did you see all this? I did. They knew it.
Let me ask you this.
So they just let me come up with my own theory.
How old are the Bowmans today, Brenda and Dennis Bowman? How old are they now?
Dennis Bowman just turned 67.
67.
Brenda just turned... Their birthday is in the same week. Now, get this. Their birthday's in the same week. She's born on the 9th. He's born on the 14th. And their wedding anniversary is the 11th, the day my daughter went missing.
That's interesting. Now, they still live in that home where they lived on the day your daughter went missing?
No. This is just so convoluted, I tell you. What happened was she went missing from a home that they had rented after he got out of prison, okay? This home straddled the county line of Holland and Hamilton. So she went to the Hamilton High School, junior high and high school, although she had gone to 1 or 2 grades of Holland Elementary School. Well, anyway, it straddled that line, so when she accused him of molesting her, a truant officer that dealt with both Holland and Hamilton came out and dealt with Bowman, okay? Then when she ran away, according to Bowman, a few months later, he called Holland Township Police. He didn't call Hamilton police, whose truant officer knew that he had been accused of molesting her, okay? So he called Holland Township Police, which is different than Ottawa Police, which is